Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on fire,
Ooh, fire.
but not just like how to build one.
Right.
Like, we'll get to that.
Of course.
We're going for the deeper meaning,
I like it.
especially in survival and across cultures.
Okay.
I've got some awesome sources,
Lay it on me.
practical survival guides with some cool Apache techniques,
Nice.
and then historical and cultural perspectives, too.
Oh, cool.
I think some of this spiritual stuff about fire will really surprise you.
Well, now I'm really interested.
It is amazing how much we just take fire for granted,
It's true.
right? But it's huge for human life.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
It's you.
Like, our survival guides really emphasize that fire is, it's for way more than just warmth.
Yeah.
It's crucial for cooking and signaling,
Sure.
even just psychological comfort, just having it there.
Makes a difference.
I never thought about it that way.
I know.
And when you look at different cultures, fire becomes almost like a living thing, like the Australian Aboriginals.
Okay.
They have these Dreamtime stories that are amazing.
Yeah.
And fire is a main character in a lot of them.
Wow.
It's like this powerful being shaping the world.
Shaping the world, fire.
You're telling me there's this awesome story about Nixon.
Nixon.
She's a young Apache woman,
Okay.
and she's getting ready for this vision quest.
A vision quest. Wow.
Her grandmother teaches her that fire isn't just practical.
Oh, interesting.
It's a symbol for transformation purification,
Okay.
the whole cycle of life and death.
Oh, that's deep.
Right. You really got me thinking.
It makes you think.
That connection to life and death,
Yeah.
it's powerful because fire can be warm and give us food,
Uh-huh.
but it can also destroy things.
That's true.
It can be destructive.
Definitely.
And that double meaning,
Yeah.
that shows up in how cultures see fire.
I see it.
So for the Apache, it's not just a tool.
Oh.
It's like a spirit guide.
Wow.
It's a link to their ancestors
Mhm.
and a source of strength, like spiritual strength.
It's powerful stuff.
Okay, so all this talk about fire is making me want to build one.
Uh-huh. I bet.
And luckily,
Yeah.
our survival guide actually gets into the details.
Okay.
It starts with the bow drill method.
Oh, yeah, the bow drill.
With the bow and the spindle
Mhm.
and the hearth board.
The hearth board
Yeah.
takes me back.
I know, right?
It's cool, though.
It is pretty fascinating
Yeah.
how something so basic,
Yeah.
like a bow drill,
Yeah.
can connect us to skills that people, have been using forever.
Thousands of years
It makes you realize how smart people had to be
to figure that out.
to figure that out. Yeah.
Right.
So the bow creates friction against the spindle,
Okay.
which spins super fast on the hearth board
Yeah.
to make enough heat to get an ember.
Right.
And that ember, you got to carefully turn into a flame.
Yeah, you gotta nurture it.
And it's not just a bow drill,
No.
right? There's also the fire plow,
Fire.
the fire saw.
Mm-hmm.
These indigenous cultures are incredible.
They've got so many ways.
The ways they came up with to make fire are amazing.
It's true.
It shows how resourceful they were,
Absolutely.
especially with the different environments and resources.
And they had to adapt.
Totally.
Totally.
Learning these techniques isn't just about survival either.
It's about more.
It's about understanding the science behind fire
The science.
and seeing how clever these different cultures were.
It is.
It's like a whole new way to look at something
Holy.
we usually take for granted.
Yeah, we do.
Plus, there's something powerful about knowing
Mm-hmm.
you can make fire without a lighter or matches.
Yeah,
It's like ancient knowledge that could be useful someday.
absolutely.
Definitely.
It's good to have.
There's this sense of self-reliance and a connection to the past with those skills.
It's cool.
But our sources also say
Yeah.
fire building isn't always easy,
No.
especially when nature throws us a curveball.
Right.
You're talking about wet conditions.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a nightmare trying to get a fire going
When it's damp.
when everything is wet.
Totally.
Our guides talk about finding shelter,
Oh, okay.
searching for dry wood,
Mm-hmm.
and even building elevated fire lays
Elevated.
to keep the tinder off the wet ground. Those are all good ideas.
For sure.
The story of Sarah really stuck with me.
Sarah.
This hiker who got stuck in a huge downpour.
Oh, no.
She learned about resilience the hard way,
Yeah,
having to find dry stuff in a soaking wet forest,
that's tough.
and then change how she built her fire.
But
But the best part,
tell me.
that feeling she had when she finally got a flame going,
I bet.
it shows that even when things are rough,
Uh-huh.
we can usually adapt and overcome those challenges.
We find a way.
And then there's high altitude,
Oh, yeah.
less oxygen,
Right.
less fuel,
Usually.
and usually more wind.
It's a different ball game.
Fire building on a mountain's a whole different thing.
It is.
It sounds like it takes extra care,
It does.
like the story of Sarah.
Another Sarah.
Yeah. She's a climber who wasn't ready for high altitude,
Uh-oh.
but luckily she met Tom.
Okay.
He's an experienced mountaineer
Good.
who gave her some tips
About.
about finding dry tinder,
Okay.
picking the right spot for a fire pit,
Mm-hmm.
and respecting the mountain environment.
It is fragile.
Yeah, that makes me think twice about trying to build a fire
Yeah.
on my next mountain hike. Speaking of challenges,
What else?
wind has got to be the biggest fire killer.
Oh, yeah.
Our guides talk about using natural windbreaks,
Okay.
building techniques with logs and earth.
Interesting.
It sounds like protecting your flame in windy conditions.
It's an art.
Is an art.
It is.
I like that.
It's true.
The story of Alex, the scout leader.
Okay.
He was teaching his troop how to build a fire
Yeah.
on a super windy day.
Oh, wow.
They had to get creative with their fire lay,
Uh-huh.
using bigger logs as a base to make it stable. And when that fire finally caught,
They were excited.
they were so happy.
I bet.
It shows how learning to build a fire,
Yeah.
it can be a team effort
It can be.
and a bonding experience.
I like that.
But, you know,
Uh,
all this talk about techniques and survival,
yeah.
it's great. But our deep dive wouldn't be complete
Right.
without looking at the deeper meaning of fire.
Of course.
It's more than just warmth or cooking food.
Right.
It's about culture, ritual
yeah.
connection.
I agree. You're right on.
It is a big part of it.
The Apache fire dance
Oh,
is a perfect example.
tell me about it.
This powerful ritual calls on blessings from ancestors and spirits,
Wow.
with dancers moving around fire in the middle.
Okay.
And their movements are like the flames themselves.
That's cool.
It sounds amazing.
It does.
Almost hypnotic.
Yeah.
It shows how fire isn't just about the physical world.
Right.
It has a deep spiritual side, too.
A spiritual dimension.
And that's something that a lot of cultures around the world recognize.
Yeah.
Fire can represent purification,
Okay.
transformation,
Yeah.
and a connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so we've got lighters,
Right.
matches,
Sure.
all these modern ways to make fire.
It's easy now.
But our sources warn us
About.
about depending on them too much.
Interesting.
What happens if your fancy lighter dies
Oh, no.
and you're stuck in the wilderness?
That's not good.
That's a great point.
It is.
And it brings up a big question.
Okay.
What happens when technology fails?
Exactly.
That's where knowing the old ways comes in.
Right.
Knowing how to make fire without modern stuff
Yeah.
isn't just about surviving.
It's about more.
It's about resilience,
Okay.
physically and mentally.
Interesting.
It's about knowing you can rely on yourself,
Yeah.
even when things get tough.
Self-reliance.
Absolutely. There's
That is-
something really empowering about mastering those ancient skills.
It connects us to something bigger
Yes.
than ourselves.
It does.
The ingenuity of our ancestors
Mhm.
and the power of nature.
You know, with all this talk about fire,
Yeah,
we can't forget about safety.
that's true.
It doesn't matter if you're building a campfire
Mm-hmm.
or just lighting a candle at home.
Right.
Awareness and respect are key.
You got it.
Absolutely right.
We need to be mindful.
We do?
The leave no trace principles,
Yes.
they are so important.
We have to minimize our impact on the environment.
Absolutely.
Be aware of our surroundings
Mm-hmm.
and always make sure fires are completely out.
Completely out.
And I remember this story
Oh, yeah.
about Thomas.
Thomas.
He's a park ranger.
Okay.
And the terrible Cedar Grove wildfire.
This is a bad one.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
It shows what can happen when fire gets out of control.
Right.
And it highlights the responsibility we all have when it comes to fire.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Respect for the land,
Yeah.
for ourselves,
Mhm.
and for future generations.
Yes.
It's a key part of using fire ethically.
Now let's switch gears for a second
Okay.
and talk about the pure joy of fire.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the food you can make,
Oh, yeah.
the possibilities are endless.
It's amazing.
Grilling right on the coals,
Mm-hmm.
baking in the coals.
You can do it all.
Fire can make simple food into amazing meals.
Yeah, it's true.
The story of Clara.
Clara.
She's a city person who found peace and skills with fire
Okay.
when she was out in the wilderness.
Cool.
I love that.
What do you love about it?
She went from being scared of fire
Yeah.
to using it for food and self-discovery.
That's awesome.
It's incredible how fire can bring out
Those hidden talents.
those hidden talents and passion.
Yes.
And it wasn't just about the food.
No.
Remember how she talked about the warmth of the fire?
Yeah.
Like it was comforting and safe?
Mm-hmm.
Like the flames chased away the cold and her worries too.
Wow, that's beautiful.
That's a key point.
It is.
Fire can create peace and well-being.
It can.
No wonder people have gathered around fires forever.
Right.
It's a place where we feel connected.
To each other.
To each other.
And to something bigger.
And to something bigger than ourselves.
I like that.
It's fascinating how fire can be both practical and symbolic.
It is.
A tool for survival and a source of inspiration.
Yeah.
A place for stories. A symbol of hope and new beginnings.
It's true.
Exactly.
It's what makes fire so fascinating.
It is.
It's a part of being human.
Right from the start.
From our earliest days
to today.
To now. Yeah, fire is woven into our lives.
It is interesting how we've talked about all the practical uses of fire and the skills you need.
Right.
But our sources also talk about fire as a powerful symbol.
Oh.
You see it representing transformation, purification, even destruction.
It's true.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a question that has fascinated people forever.
I bet.
Fire can both create and destroy.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it such a strong symbol.
Across so many cultures.
Across cultures and belief systems.
You think about the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Exactly.
Or the idea of burning away the old to make way for the new.
It's a powerful idea.
Those ideas are deep in our minds, you know?
Deep in our collective consciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
We've talked about fire as this source of warmth and comfort, but we can't forget about its destructive power.
Absolutely.
Wildfires can be devastating.
They can be.
Leaving whole landscapes scarred.
It's true.
But even in that destruction, there's a feeling of renewal.
There is.
Forests often grow back after a fire.
I do.
With new life coming from the ashes.
It's like a cycle.
It is.
A cycle of destruction and rebirth.
It reminds us that even in the worst times, there's always a chance for rebirth and regrowth.
A chance to start again.
This deep dive is making me see fire in a whole new way.
I'm glad.
It's not just about the practical stuff.
Right?
It's about the stories we tell.
The stories.
The symbolism we give it.
The meaning.
The way it shapes how we understand the world.
It shapes our understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fire has been a big part of storytelling for a long time.
It has.
Think about myths and legends.
Oh, yeah?
Those stories we tell around the campfire.
Campfire stories.
Even religious ceremonies.
Right.
Fire is often the center point.
The focal point.
A source of mystery and awe.
It draws us in.
It brings people together.
And sparks our imagination.
Speaking of ceremonies, our sources talk about the Apache fire dance. Yes. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, the fire dance is a really powerful ritual.
Okay.
It's about asking for blessings and protection from ancestors and spirits.
Wow.
The dancers move around a fire.
In the middle.
In the center, yeah.
And their movements are like the flames.
Like mirroring the flames.
That sounds so moving.
It is.
Almost hypnotic.
Almost trance-like.
It really shows that fire isn't just about the physical world.
Right.
It has this deep spiritual side.
A spiritual dimension.
Absolutely.
And many cultures see that.
They do.
That spiritual side of fire.
Yeah.
Fire can represent purification, transformation, and a connection to something beyond ourselves.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
We've talked about fire building skills.
The practical stuff.
The challenges we might face.
Right.
The deeper meaning and symbolism of fire.
The bigger picture.
But what about today's world?
What about it?
Do these old skills and ideas still matter in our tech-driven world?
That's a great question.
It's easy to think that with all our gadgets.
Our lighters and stoves and everything.
That we don't need fire anymore.
Right. It seems like we've moved past it.
But I think the opposite is true.
You do?
I think in a world that feels disconnected from nature.
Yeah.
Learning about fire can help us reconnect.
Reconnect. With
ourselves, with our ancestors, with the planet.
I like that.
It's not just about surviving.
It's about more.
It's about finding a sense of grounding and connection.
Grounding.
In a world that often feels chaotic.
And overwhelming.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about finding peace in the chaos.
And there are practical benefits too.
Like what?
Imagine knowing how to build a fire.
Yeah.
Without needing any modern tools.
That'd be amazing.
It gives you a sense of self-reliance.
Self-reliance.
Of being prepared.
It's prepared for anything.
No matter what life throws at you.
I like that.
All right, you've convinced me.
Uh-huh.
So where do we go from here?
Where do we go?
How can our listeners start using these skills and ideas
in their own lives?
In their own lives.
Well, first of all, I encourage everyone to get some hands-on experience.
Get out there.
Find a safe place to practice.
Okay.
gather some materials, and try out some of the techniques we've talked about.
You get your hands dirty.
Even if you're never in a survival situation,
Right.
just learning how to build a fire is rewarding.
It is.
It's a great feeling.
I agree.
There's something so satisfying
There is.
about making a fire from scratch.
Yeah.
And seeing those flames come alive.
You did that.
Because of you.
And don't forget about the social side of it.
Oh, yeah.
Invite your friends and family.
Have a fire party.
Share stories around the fire.
Cook some food.
Connect with that feeling of community.
That fire has always brought people together.
What a great idea.
It is.
It's a way to combine the practical with the social and the spiritual.
All in one.
And speaking of social, our sources also talk about fire safety.
Oh, right?
It's not just about protecting ourselves.
No.
It's about being responsible for the environment.
Taking care of the planet.
Absolutely.
Whether you're building a campfire in the woods
Yeah.
or using a fireplace at home, you got to be mindful of fire safety.
Be safe.
Always have a plan.
Okay.
Keep a fire extinguisher or water close by.
Good idea.
And never leave a fire unattended.
Never.
And of course, leave no trace.
Always.
We have to minimize our impact and leave things better than we found them.
So we've talked about a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
From the actual techniques to the spiritual symbolism,
Right.
to the importance of responsibility.
It's all connected.
What are some key things you hope our listeners will remember?
I hope they've learned to appreciate the role fire has played in human history
That's a big one.
and the role it still plays in our lives today.
It does.
Fire isn't just a tool.
Right.
It's a powerful symbol,
Okay.
a source of warmth and nourishment, and it brings people together
It does.
and sparks creativity.
I couldn't agree more.
I'm glad.
And I hope our listeners feel inspired to learn more,
To learn more.
to try some of these techniques,
Get out there.
and to find their own connection to the magic and power of fire.
In their own way.
And maybe most importantly,
What's that?
to share that knowledge and experience with others.
Share the fire.
The legacy of fire isn't just about the flames. It's about passing on the stories,
The stories.
the skills, and the wisdom.
The wisdom of fire.
Now, before we finish up,
Yeah.
I want to mention one last thing that really hit home for me.
Okay.
Our sources say that learning to build a fire can be empowering,
Empowered.
even transformative.
Wow.
It can teach us about resilience,
Resilience.
resourcefulness,
Being resourceful.
and our ability to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
That's powerful.
It is.
It is a powerful insight.
And it's something I've felt myself
You have.
in my own journey with fire.
Tell me about it.
There's a sense of accomplishment,
Yeah.
of self-reliance
feel
that comes from knowing you can make fire from nothing.
from scratch.
It connects us to our ancestors, to nature.
Into our own inner strength.
It's almost like a metaphor for life.
How so?
Overcoming challenges,
Yeah.
adapting to our environment, finding ways to create warmth and light,
Even in the dark times.
even in the darkest times.
Exactly.
And that's a message I hope our listeners take with them
I hope so too.
after this deep dive is over.
Long after the flames die down.
So as we wrap up our exploration of fire,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with a question to think about.
Okay. I like it.
In a world full of technology and distractions,
Mm-hmm.
how can we rekindle our relationship with fire?
That's a great question.
And it's one I hope everyone thinks about.
As they start their own fire journeys.
Well said.
Thank you.
And on that note, we'll end this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll be back soon with more about the magic of fire. Thinking about rekindling our relationship with fire,
Uh-huh.
that story of Clara really sticks with me.
Clara, yeah.
The city person who ended up in the wilderness.
I remember her.
It was amazing how she changed.
It was.
At first, she was so scared of building a
She
fire,
was terrified.
but she had to learn.
She had no choice.
And when she did,
Yeah.
she discovered a whole new side of herself.
You know what they say?
What's that?
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Uh-huh. That's true.
It is.
Facing a challenge head-on can lead to self-discovery.
It can.
I loved how she went from struggling with those tools
The flint steel.
Yeah.
It can be tricky.
to making those awesome meals
Some of the stuff she found.
from foraged ingredients.
It's impressive.
It's like fire brought out a hidden talent.
It's like you unlocked something inside her.
And it wasn't just the food either.
No.
Remember how she described the warmth of the fire?
Yeah.
Like it was comfort and safety. It was like the flames chased away the cold.
Yeah.
And her fears and anxieties too.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It is.
That's a really important point.
It is.
Fire has this power
to
create peace and well-being.
I think that's why people have gathered around fires forever.
For sure.
It's where we feel connected.
To each other and to something bigger than ourselves.
It's amazing how fire can be both practical and symbolic.
It's true.
A tool and an inspiration.
A source of warmth and light.
A place for stories and a symbol of hope.
A symbol of renewal, too.
Exactly.
Fire is endlessly fascinating.
It is.
It's a part of what makes us human.
From the very beginning to now.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
What does fire mean to you?
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
I know, right?
Let me think.
Take your time.
For me,
Yeah.
fire represents resilience, adaptability, and the way everything is connected.
I like that.
It reminds me that even when things are tough, there's always a chance for warmth and light and new beginnings.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
What about you?
What does fire mean to me?
Yeah.
Well, for me, fire is about community.
Community.
Those times when we share stories and laugh.
Around a fire.
Yeah.
It's connecting with something ancient and timeless.
Something bigger than ourselves.
It's something that helps us forget about the busyness of life.
I think it's time we let our listeners go.
Let them go.
And tend to their own fires. I love that.
Both the real ones and the ones inside them.
What a perfect way to end this.
It is fitting.
Thanks for joining us on this fiery adventure, everyone.
It's been a blast.
And remember,
what?
Keep those sparks of curiosity burning bright.
That's good advice.
Thanks for being here.
Anytime.